Chapter 24. Lost. The voice. Falling down.
"What are you doing?"
asked Uriah, her voice raised in panic. Never in all the time she had known Brianna would she have ever suspected her to do something like this. "You're taking him away from them at a time when they need him most. Why?" Brianna waited to reply. She sat still, her eyes closed, hoping Uriah would understand. Brianna whispered a small prayer to herself, asking for love and understanding, for the future events which were now set into motion to be carried out to the best of his abilities. Everything relied on what Devin would be doing next. "Uriah," she replied, "please, you must understand. I do it to give him a chance. Right now they need more assistance than he can provide alone at this time, and he needs all the help I can give him. I just pray that he is capable to do what is needed, alone." Uriah sighed. She could not understand why Brianna was so determined to take him away. But then again, just like before, Brianna seemed to know something that she was not telling. "Why doesn't she trust me?" A wicked laugh lashed out at them from the other side as the two turned to see the evil eyes of darkness flaring at them. "You take away your chosen one now, foolish girl," he hissed at her. "Don't think there isn't any place you can send him that I cannot find." Uriah glared at the blazing eyes. "Well, don't think that we won't be there to stop you," she retorted, her own eyes emanating with anger. "Well, the whore has made her challenge," the demon replied casually. Uriah's whole being went numb as all sensation exited her extremities. Her eyes were white, the colour draining from her face. What did you call me?" her voice gasped. She could feel the tremble of uncontrollable rage creeping over her, and for the first time, she was afraid of darkness. The demon cackled with excitement. "You remember," he growled. "Good. Then you won't have any trouble." A large whip of flame lashed out at Uriah, grabbing her by the waist. She screamed. Brianna watched in horror, not knowing what to do, as the whip pulled Uriah into the universal picture before them. Brianna reached out, but all she could do was watch as her friend fell amongst the swirl of clouds and light. Uriah's scream faded into an echo, her form disappearing into the blackened void. "Finding your way back," the demon finished. Brianna fell back into her chair, too frightened to move or do anything. Uriah was gone, thrust down into the depths of what lay beyond the limits of the universal image. Brianna turned her frightened sights to the demon's eyes, which she now faced, alone. "What's the matter, princess?" the demon asked her. "Can't continue without your friend?" A shiver ran its course through Brianna's body. This was not what she was expecting. Of all the things to do, she never thought he would attack her like that. Brianna bit hard on her lower lip. She tried to maintain her focus, keeping her overall plan in mind. She had to be patient before making her next move. For now, so much would depend upon it. Brianna closed her eyes, drew in a deep breath, and let it out slow. She had to think as he did. She had to play it his way. "You've made my job that much easier, I'm afraid," she announced, keeping her voice calm, trying to keep Uriah's enthusiasm. "Don't let your overconfidence cloud your judgment. You have too much to worry about until the merger is complete." The demon's eyes glared at her as doubt-filled curiosity crossed its line of sight. "Don't play the foolish pride your friend did," it warned her. "You'll lose before you even begin to play. Be careful, princess. You've given too much away already." The eyes faded from her sight, leaving Brianna to ponder her next move. "Patience," she told herself. "I have to have faith in the one I have chosen." Failure was not what she would expect from Devin. She looked out to her hero, so far away and yet now with a chance to gain the upper hand in the coming battle, an epic confrontation that was drawing closer by the day. Brianna began scanning the immediate area for Uriah, hoping to find where she had fallen to, but Uriah was nowhere to be found. The more she searched, the harder it was to remain focused. Her eyes glossed over as an extreme wave of sorrow began to fill Brianna. Exhaling a shaky breath, Brianna began to feel her emotions releasing themselves at the loss of her friend. Quivers of unrelenting sadness shook her already fragile heart. The hardened feelings of lonesome isolation enveloped her senses, letting her know that no one else could help her now. Letting out a moan of sorrow, Brianna bent over and covered her face. She was glad the demon was gone, for he would not see her break down and cry.
Help me.
The voice sounded out like a whisper on the wind. Devon turned his head. He could not see, but he could feel it, lightly touching his cheeks. A slight breeze was blowing against his body. It was cool, but not like the chill of winter's touch. It enlightened him, invigorating his body to do what he needed to do. But what that was, he still was not sure of. It was like being taken somewhere with a black hood over his head. Whether it was a surprise party or the gallows he was heading to was anybody's guess. Yet there was that one glimmer of hope that maybe she was out there, watching over him, helping him through whatever it was he was supposed to do. It had to be her, the beautiful blonde woman from his dreams. She was doing all of this. But how? And for what purpose?
Help me.
Who was this person calling out? Was it her? It was female, but it was hard to tell as it continued to whisper its cry for help. Who are you? Where are you? Nothing, not even the echo of his own voice, sounded beyond the void. It was strange. He had not seen her since that dream he had a week ago. Each day that passed without her led to even more frustration and heartache. The breeze began to grow stronger. It blew upon his face like a gust of air pushing out through a furnace vent. He still could not see, nor could he tell what was going on around him. Off in the distance, somewhere, a low, flapping sound reverberated gently, as if a large bird was pushing itself along in stride with the airstream above. Devon thought for a second. He could not tell right away if it was getting closer or moving away. Nevertheless, it remained a constant in his ear. His eyes, on the other hand, began to form a different opinion from what was presenting itself. A soft red glow began to illuminate along the far distant horizon, piercing the darkness that enveloped the nearby surroundings. Slowly, but with elegance, the surrounding area's illumination grew to a steady rise. Devon lay back, feeling the firm cushion behind his head. His whole body was in a reclined position, but it was far from being a comfortable one. Moving about, Devon tried to recover the sensation back into his limbs, but he felt restrained, held back from doing anything. The dulled lighting was not bright enough to discern much of what was going on around him, yet the pulsing beat continued, and now he could tell it was growing louder. He caught the sense that something overhead was gliding downward, its form just becoming visible in the distant red light, which was spreading itself along the horizon. The flapping now sounded like the cracking of sheets, shaken out from the laundry. The closer it approached, the more forceful it sounded. The sky continued to grow brighter, the darker shades surrendering to the light as it increased the bounds of visibility. A spot of intense light sparked out from the edges beyond as the visibility steadily increased. Is this a sunrise? It had to be the most beautiful one he had ever seen if it was. The vast, barren edges began to take shape along the skyline as the hues began to shift to a crisp, bright blue. The awakening of the world around him brought a sense of familiarization. He had seen this place before, in a dream, but the next thing that caught his attention took even Devon by surprise. The solemn form of a figure slowly drifted downward before him. First, 2 small feet, followed by a pair of slender legs. They were enwrapped by a tattered robe that whipped about in the warm, arid wind. The figure of a woman came into full view amid the rising sun. The rays of light beamed from behind her, filling the empty sky above and revealing the source of the flapping noise. Devin braced himself. He could not believe what he was seeing. The largest set of wings he had ever seen beat their slow rhythm along the woman's backside. They encompassed her form gracefully, which stood in contrast to her somberness. Her head hung low, as if refusing to perceive her surroundings. Her bronzed hair whipped about, shifting around in a cyclonic whirl. The ragged robe she wore seemed a stranger to the life she lived. Devin stared at her, his eyes not wanting to blink in fear of losing the sight he was witnessing. The woman touched down upon the soft sand below. The wings flitted for a second, and then folded in behind her back, disappearing from sight. Devin watched her head lift as a saddened face was all that stared back at him. Their eyes met, hers glistening with a blue that could only come from the deepest of wounds. Then they flashed, changing to the colour of a rose surrounded by the ivy green of contemplation. Devin's mind lost all ability to comprehend what he was seeing. It just accepted it for what it was, and as far as he was concerned, it was heavenly. The bright object lifted up behind her, its overpowering rays piercing Devin's eyes. He turned away, fearing that either the sun or the woman's beauty would blind him forever. It was all just as well. Most everything was beyond his sight as it was. He closed his eyes and sunk back into the enclosure that contained his tired body. Devin opened his eyes. The bright daylight startled him at first, as he glanced about with weary eyes at his immediate surroundings. He was sitting in the cockpit of his starfighter, right where he was before. With all his might, Devin tried to remember what had happened. He was in space, fighting alongside Braum and the others, and then he was heading back to the ship before something happened. There was a swirling light. The image of a desert world appeared before him, and then a pulling sensation which shot him through the portal before all went black. Now he was here, sitting in his ship, which in turn was sitting out in the middle of nowhere. But it had to be somewhere. The barren desert land before him spread out as far as the eye could see. Devin tried to turn his head, but there was not much to look at from his enclosed vantage point. He had to get out for a better look. As the cockpit window opened, Devin unbuckled his restraints and attempted to rise from his seat. At first, his limbs would not move. It took an extra effort to get his body to function the way he wanted, leaving Devin to wonder just how long he had been restrained in that position. His legs were sore and numb. He smacked them around a little, trying to get some feeling back into his bad knee, which stiffened, making his entire left leg rigid. After getting some form of feeling back, Devin propped himself to stand. Pops and groans sounded from each of his limbs and down the length of his body. A small ache began to pound at the side of his temples as well. He stretched upwards, trying to get a better view of the strange, desolate environment. Devin looked about his dreary surroundings. It was exactly as he had seen it through his dream. How strange, he thought. It was as if each dream were becoming stranger by the day. Now he was seeing angels? This was something he would have found harder to believe before. Yet she was there, though she appeared very sad to him, almost as if she had come to him unwillingly. Yet she said nothing. All he could remember were those eyes. Devin removed his helmet, the hot, dry air hitting his lungs instantly. The harshness made him cough for a second, as he was unsure if the air was even breathable or not. After a few seconds, he took in some normal breaths, feeling that it was okay, and then relaxed. The landscape before him was vast and bare. Long arching dunes rose up along the horizon, each one larger than the one in front of it. Not as pretty or familiar as the first place he was transported to, the scene just left him to wonder what it was he was sent here to do. Waves of anxiety began to hit as he had the bad feeling that he was now farther from home than he had ever been before. Even worse, now he was alone. He climbed out of the cockpit, stretched his legs and back again before turning to look at his ship. It was intact, but he gave little notice to it, as something else had caught his eye. Something big. Just behind his fighter rose a large, ancient structure sticking up out of the sand. Tall, spiralling towers stood aside a large circular dome in the centre of the building. The massive monument appeared to have been here for countless years. The exposed surface of the building was worn and beaten by the ages. The overbearing sand appeared to be devouring the rest of it before time could finish it off. Devin's jaw dropped. Never in his life had he ever seen a structure such as this. It was like peering at the pyramids of Egypt for the first time and wondering what they were. Who built it? What lay beyond its bounds? What was it doing out in the middle of the desert? His mind strangled his wandering curiosity before it could take over all of his thoughts. As the sun continued its ascension into the sky, the heat was beginning to swelter. Soon it would be too hot to do much of anything. Devin looked to the sky surrounding the wondrous building once again, then back at the ground and his ship. It appeared that this time no one was here to greet him. "Okay," he said aloud to no one in particular. Just the sound of his voice this time made Devin feel better as he breathed a jovial sigh of relief. At least he still had his voice. He reflected on the last time when he had lost it. The irony of the situation made it look like another career of his was bound to be just as short-lived as the last. The soreness of his surgically repaired knee made him fully aware of that. Devin tried to maintain his faith in whatever it was he was supposed to be doing. It was all he had left to go on, and even that was starting to wear upon him. He had made it this far, but now, even this desolation was starting to match his own. He went back to his ship and began shuffling through some of the compartments, hoping to find something that resembled an emergency survival kit.